Chef Julia Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making what I call master fried rice. And the reason I call it that is I did this recipe in one of my ebooks. This one was called 50 Recipes in 50 Days of Facebook Live Videos. And it was such a popular recipe. There's a picture of it in here. But everyone wanted this recipe, and I do it all the time because it's called master for a reason. You could use anything in it. So for example, today I'm using all these different vegetables, and some of them I just went out and got from the garden that I'll be using. You know, bell peppers and that sort of thing are easy to grow. And then I have some green beans. I'm probably not going to use these today, but an example, these are some Chinese yard-long green beans that I grow. They could be put in there. Mushrooms, zucchini, just about anything. So it's very versatile because you don't have to use the same ingredients all the time. You can use whatever vegetables you have on hand, leftover vegetables, things in your fridge in the drawer where you have one thing left and you're not sure what to do with it. So we're going to start today and start cooking some mushrooms up while I'm doing some of the other cutting. I've taken some cremini mushrooms and I've just sliced them up. So I'm just going to get them in my skillet, which has already been heating to medium high. So I don't use oil. So I just take a hot pan, and this is a Calphalon non-stick skillet. I use it all the time. It doesn't have any scratches on it, so I think it's perfectly good. But I like these kind of skillets because they conduct heat really well. And so you can cook without things sticking, without using oil. And so I'm going to put the mushrooms in here, get them started, and if I need a lid, I've got one in my cabinet down here, but usually I just cook for a while without a lid, and then I'll get a lid later. And then I have to decide what vegetables I'm going to use. For sure, I'm going to use a carrot, and I like to get the carrots that still have the tops attached. They come there, the kind I get are, they're bundled together, and they have all the carrot tops. And they're so fresh and sweet, and they taste better than the carrots in the bag because you can tell by looking at them that they're fresh. And sometimes you get the carrots in the bag and you know they've been in that bag for who knows how long, and they're bitter, and I do not like bitter carrots. So we're going to use a nice sweet carrot, and I think we'll use a red bell pepper. We won't use all of it because I'm only making, it's about 2.5 cups of rice. So this is not fried rice for a crowd. This is enough for 3 hungry people probably. So I'm going to use part of this bell pepper. I'm going to use a zucchini, not all of the zucchini, even probably half of it, because we don't want to put too much of any one thing in our fried rice, because then it just tastes like that one thing, and that's not good. Then we're going to have our mushrooms. Let's see, onion. It's always good to have some onion. These are those Texas sweet onions. They come out all the time around here, and they're gigantic, so no, we're not going to put a whole onion in here. We'll put like 1/4 of this onion in here, and we'll use some scallions later. We'll put the scallions on as a garnish, so I won't put those in the fried rice right now. I've got some cut up over here, and I think that's about it. You only need about 5 different kinds of vegetables to make your rice turn out well. You don't have to have 15 different things. If we wanted to, we could add, I love Fresno chilies, and I grow these. So I'm likely to chop up a Fresno chili and add it. They're not super hot, but they taste really good. So when you're stir frying or sauteing in a dry skillet, things don't happen as fast because we don't have the oil in here. So what you do is you let them saute in the dry skillet till things start to brown up just a little bit. And then, let me get my lid, I should have gotten that sooner. And then what we can do is, I'm going to keep an eye on it while I'm chopping. If it starts to get a little too brown, I'll add just a little bit of water and then put the lid on and let it kind of continue cooking. And that's the way to cook without oil. It's just a little bit different technique than what you're used to. This is my big onion. Move these off my cutting board so you can see what I'm doing better. I'm going to cut the top off the onion. Then I turn it on the flat side because it's hard to cut a rolling object. Don't cut rolling objects. Those are some of the knife skill tips that you learn. And a lot of it is through trial and error, because obviously when you've tried to slash things that were moving around, you learn pretty quickly that that's not going to work very well. My trash bowl over here. It's a good thing to have a trash bowl for all your trimmings that you can use later for stock. I learned this from Rachel Ray 20 years ago on Food Network. I thought it was a good tip. Okay, so I'm going to take the onion and make a couple of horizontal slices. And then on onions, you can follow along your lines on the onion. If you cut along the lines of your onion, that's about 1/4 of an inch, which is about the right size for the diced onions. So we're going to use not even 1/4 of this onion because, like I said earlier, I don't want too much of any vegetable in here. I just want, you know, enough of each thing so it's in there, but it's not the star. All right, so I'm just going to toss these in with the mushrooms because the mushrooms are doing fine. It's not going to be a problem. If you were making a lot of mushrooms, like when I made this for 40 people recently, I had like my skillet full of mushrooms and I had to cook them. I had to add a little liquid and I had to cover them up and do all kinds of things because the pan was too full. But if you don't have a lot of your ingredients, it's a lot easier to keep things moving around. So I'm adjusting the heat. I have a gas burner, which I think gas conducts heat really nicely, and I love using my gas stove. So I kind of just keep an eye on it. Usually it's always on like medium or medium high. So my bell pepper, I'm just going to cut the sides off because that kind of turns it into a slab and it leaves all the inside, which is great. And then I don't have to deal with, well, I'll cut this little white part off because that can be a little bitter. But then I don't have to deal with all the seeds and the membranes and all that. And then it's really easy to cut the pepper into little 1/4 inch slices. So everything is kind of the same size. And I cut on the rough side of the pepper instead of this shiny side because the rough side is not as slippery. Then we can just cut across and just cut this as quickly as possible. Keep your fingers turned under so they're not under the knife blade, obviously. But things that are obvious sometimes are not obvious to everybody, so I like to mention them. And you can hear the vegetables sizzling as they go in the pan. Nothing is burning. I haven't had to add anything. Haven't even had to add water because nothing is burning or sticking. I can see my mushrooms are starting to have a nice little brown color, which is what I want. And at some point, I'll probably cover this and let all the vegetables cook down a little bit. Now I have my carrot, and I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. And with carrots, I just like to kind of cut them into planks, little like 1/4 inch planks. And then they're easy to dice. So I just cut the whole carrot. This is not a very fat carrot. That's the thing about these fresh carrots with the tops attached. They're usually very skinny, so you might need more than what you think in a recipe because the recipe will say a carrot, but they're thinking of those great big fat carrots in the bunch, not these little dainty carrots. Then I just take the whole stack of planks and I can easily chop them into little 1/4 inch pieces. It's that quick. Use your bench scraper, which is just a tool that is so handy to have because it keeps your cutting board clean and it helps you get your food into the pan. All right, I'm gonna get my peppers and zucchini in here, and I think it's starting to get a little brown. So what I'm gonna do now is keep some water handy. About a tablespoon of water is all I put in there. And that way, it'll cook my vegetables. Things will not they won't burn because at some point, you know, after they start getting brown, without having the oil in there, if you don't put something in there like broth or a little bit of water, your vegetables will kind of start to get overcooked. And that's not a pleasant taste, burnt vegetables. No, you don't want that. So I'm trimming up my zucchini, cut the top and bottom off. I'm just gonna cut it in half. And I'm only gonna use half of the zucchini. And again, same thing, I'm going to cut it into planks. And that way I can cut the planks into strips. And because of the size of everything being 1/4 inch, it will all cook evenly. If you try to put giant chunks of vegetables in your stir fry or your fried rice, and they're all different sizes or they're too big, then nothing is going to cook. And you'll have some undercooked and some overcooked vegetables in your final dish. And that's not good. So we'll make them all kind of small dice, 1/4 inch. And last but not least, we can stir it around a little bit, turn the heat up a tiny bit. But you see what we're doing here? We've got these beautiful, different colored seasonal vegetables. You could put anything in here you like. If you wanted broccoli in here, some people love cauliflower and broccoli. Nothing wrong with putting that in here. I'm going to slice up this beautiful Fresno chili. My favorite hot chili pepper of all time is Fresno chili. Not only because they're a pretty color, but they have such a good taste. They're not too spicy like jalapenos, but at the same time, they have a good taste. I think I'm going to chop them into smaller pieces instead of putting these giant rings in, because that doesn't really go with the other vegetables. And all these seeds I'm going to leave out because, you know, pepper seeds are not that tasty, especially, well, these pepper seeds are small, so they probably wouldn't be a problem. But like if you get some of the big chili seeds like hatch peppers and stuff, those things are huge and they're tough and hard as a rock. So you never want to leave pepper seeds from some of those bigger peppers in. I'm going to turn this off a little bit. And then we will do the final thing, which is to add the rice. But I think this needs to cook a little bit. So we'll let it cook with the cover on and we'll make our sauce. So I'm just going to let it cook. That way, once I add a little water, I add, turn the heat down and cook the vegetables for 2 or 3 minutes with the lid on. And that kind of keeps the vegetables from being raw tasty. Because a lot of times when you don't use oil, your vegetables don't cook like what you're used to. And then you end up with raw tasting onions and unpleasant flavors. And people will say, well, that didn't taste very good. Well, it's because they didn't really cook their vegetables all the way through. So now I'm going to get my sauce ingredients. So I have a lot of things here for the sauce. And we could create the sauce using other ingredients besides the ones that I have. But I'm going to just use my kind of standard sauce ingredients. And it usually starts with a spoon here. Tablespoon of soy sauce. And this is lower sodium, reduced sodium soy sauce. But if you're watching your sodium and don't want to use a lot of sodium, you could use a substitute like liquid aminos, coconut aminos. You could just use citrus juice instead of soy sauce, because sometimes citrus, oops, get the lid off there. Sometimes citrus gives that same kind of tang to the food that you're looking for, and it's completely no sodium. So you don't have to use soy sauce if that's not something you want to use. And then tahini, shake it up. I love this Mighty Sesame tahini. It's squeezable. You don't have to get your tahini jar out and stir it forever. It's a big pain in the neck. So Mighty Sesame tahini, look at it. It just pours right out. I have this in my Amazon store. I have an Amazon store where I do earn from qualifying purchases, but you can order lots of different things that I use in the Amazon store. And that, of course, is one of the most popular things I think that people order. And then I have, I'm going to put a tablespoon of miso in here. This is yellow miso. You can buy this in American grocery stores. You don't have to go to the Asian market. And this Mighty Sesame tahini is so good tasting. I love it. I use it all the time for lots of things, salad dressings, and just has such, Miso Master, miso, I said Mighty Sesame, sorry about that. It just has a good taste. I use it in miso soup, just everything. So I'm going to put that in my jar of my sauce, but it's kind of hard to dissolve think I've got everything in here. I put in the sriracha, and I didn't really talk about my sriracha, but I use this organic sriracha, and this brand is Yellowbird. I quit using the typical Asian sriracha a while back because I started looking at the ingredients, and it had some kind of, you know, added things that I didn't know what they were, and I thought that's probably not the best thing to have. So I found this brand, and it's all just natural ingredients like garlic, dates, raisins, tangerine juice, lime juice, jalapenos, much more pure ingredients, and it tastes really good. I've gotten used to it. It's not the same as the old, you know, rooster sriracha sauce. It's just not going to be the same, but that doesn't mean it's not good. I like it and I use it, and what I'm trying to do is dissolve this miso. So the tahini, miso, soy sauce, and sriracha is in here. And that's all I need. I can water it down a little bit if I wanted to. It is kind of thick, so I've got my water here. I'm gonna add like just a half a tablespoon of water so that it mixes up better. And we may not use all of this. You know, this sauce is pretty concentrated. So there's no reason that we have to use all of it. I kind of use it to taste. So, oh, these turned out so nicely. Look at that. All the vegetables have kind of gotten a little caramelization. And you can caramelize your vegetables without using oil because vegetables have natural sugar and water. So the water and the sugars and the vegetables will come together and you'll get that same taste that you're after, that nice kind of, you know, umami or whatever you want to call it that you get from foods that are grilled or browned or, you know, have that kind of cooking technique. So here's my brown rice that I'm going to add. And let me tell you about the rice for a minute. Turn this down. You can use any kind of rice you like. I tend to use brown rice because, of course, I'm whole foods, plant-based, using things that are the full grain, the whole grain, instead of processed, and white rice is more processed. They've removed the outer hull. So you can buy brown rice frozen like this one. This one is from Central Market, our local gourmet grocery store. It comes in bags that you heat up in the microwave, or I usually use Masa Organics brown rice. I order it from a company in California. They have a huge farm, and they have almonds, brown rice, and just beautiful stuff. But their brown rice is famous. So I ordered like 20-pound bags of it. And I belong to the Rancho Gordo Bean Club, and they sent this in their bean shipment this month. So it was such a cute little box. So I was tickled to get that. But I'm using the Masa Organics brown rice. This is about 2.5 cups, and I'm just going to put it in the pan along with the vegetables. And it's been cooled. It's better to use rice either refrigerated or completely cooled off because, you know, it mixes up better with your vegetables. It just makes a nicer fried rice. If you try to put hot steamed rice in here, then sometimes the rice gets a little too soft, mushy. So put cold rice in your fried rice. It just looks better, tastes better. But you can see all the different vegetables coming together. And the last vegetable that we're going to add is really a bean. It's a soybean. So this is edamame. This is edamame that's been shelled. And you can buy it in the packages already like this, or you can shell it yourself if you bought the whole pods. Excuse me. If you bought the whole edamame in pods because they didn't have shelled edamame, then of course you could use that. And then just get it out of the pods yourself, but I got the kind that was already shelled. So I've used most of my sauce, not all of it. I'm going to mix it up. And what you do with the frozen edamame that's already shelled is put it in a bowl and cover it with boiling water and let it sit for 5 minutes, and that will cook the edamame just enough. If you follow the instructions for cooking edamame, a lot of times it says to put it in a pan and cover it with water and all this stuff. Well, what I found was the edamame would get like shrink down and get overcooked, and it would start kind of deteriorating. It would just not look very appetizing. But this technique, which I learned from my friend Amy Johnson, Mrs. Plant, she's also a plant-based chef. She told me about it. It was like a miracle. It was like, oh, the edamame, it looks so pretty. It's not all shriveled up. Okay, so there's the fried rice. And let me talk a minute about the tofu, and then we're going to actually grill the tofu. And look, I have more sauce here. So what I would do is I would taste the rice at this point, which I'll do, and see, does it need more of the sauce, or is it already flavorful enough? Yeah, I think it could use the rest of the sauce. It needs it for it to really get through everything. And then, sad to say, but the typical person eating the fried rice, when I made it for like 40 people, they wanted to put more soy sauce on it. It was kind of like, it's already got sodium in it. It's already got soy sauce. You don't need any more, but you know, people like their soy sauce. Okay, so I know that's better. And we could put sea salt and pepper and, you know, freshly ground pepper on here and all kinds of other things, but I won't. We don't really have to do that. So let's talk about the tofu. Normally in my master fried rice, I make some kind of baked tofu, and then we add the tofu at this stage. But for today, I took the tofu and I baked it and put it on skewers so that I could put it on the grill and put a little teriyaki sauce on it and serve my fried rice with a couple of tofu skewers, because that's what I did for the event that I did. It was very popular. So I use an organic tofu, it's extra firm, and I'll put the instructions in the show notes of how I drained it and pressed it. But this is a common tofu you can find in American grocery stores. My husband gets it at the local Walmart. I make him go because I don't like to go there. But funny thing is, a lot of times when he goes there, they're sold out of it. And he'll say, somebody bought up all the tofu again. So I think tofu must be getting really popular because we can never find it. So then what I've done is I roasted the tofu in the oven using my sesame ginger tofu marinade, which is going to be in the show notes, but it's just basically low sodium soy sauce, tahini, garlic, and ginger. That's all. And I marinated my pressed tofu that I cut up into cubes for just a few minutes. And then I cooked it at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. And then it turned out in these nice little brown cubes. And then I just threaded them on these skewers. They're just little bamboo skewers. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take them out on my charcoal grill. I have an old Weber kettle, nothing fancy, with good old charcoal. And I'm going to put these on the grill and let them get some color, some grill marks, and then I'll be basting them a little bit with my mom's teriyaki sauce. My mother's Japanese, and she was famous for her teriyaki sauce, and I always keep some in my fridge. And I use it very sparingly, but it's really good on stuff like this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this outside and get it grilling. All right, here I am at my grill, and it's all set to go. I've got some lump charcoal in here. Just I heated it on my handy little chimney starter. This is like totally old school. You put the coals in, paper on the bottom, light the paper, the coals get hot, then you don't have to use lighter fluid. The stuff when I was growing up, we would use this horrible smelling lighter fluid that make everything taste bad. So I'm going to take my skewers, put them right over the coals because I don't want to leave them on here very long. Just long enough to get a little bit of taste of the coals, because charcoal just gives food such a good flavor, I think. You know, I think it's nice. It really tastes like it's been grilled. Sometimes I have a gas grill right here next to my charcoal grill, and I use my big gas grill for all kinds of things, but I'm going to cover it up just for a minute because that will kind of get the heat going. But what I learned was with the gas grill, which I use a lot, it doesn't really impart any smoke flavor. You get the grill marks and you get the grill look of the grill. But unless you put smoked chips in your gas grill, like you take hickory chips, soak them in water, put them in like I have these little smoke boxes that you can, they're made from metal, and you can put the wood chips in the smoke box, stick it under the grate in your gas grill, then you get this nice smoke, but it only lasts a very short time. So I've done that many times. Or you can just take heavy duty aluminum foil, put, soaked wood chips in that, crumble it up, put that down there in the heat element of your gas grill. And that's the same thing. It kind of gives you the smoke flavor. But I learned when I took my little charcoal grill to this event outside to grill my tofu skewers, then when I went to taste them, I tasted the taste of the charcoal, the smoke. And I thought, hey, I really love the way this flavored the tofu, because I make a lot of stuff with tofu. So if I can make the tofu taste better, that is really a bonus. So I thought, I'm going to do that again. And so here I've got my tofu skewers, and the tofu's already been cooked, so I don't really need to cook it. I'm just basically getting flavor on it. I'm getting it to have that little kiss of the grill, and you can already see that it's getting a little browner. It's got a little bit of the, and I don't want to get great big grill marks on this. I just want it to have a slight flavor of the grill, and the green onions, they're also getting that too. And then the next thing I can do is I can put a little bit of my teriyaki sauce on here. I don't want to put too much, because that will, it's got sugar in it, so it can tend to go from cooked to burnt very fast, but a little bit goes a long way. So I'll put a little bit on this side, turn it over, and then they'll be good to go. And then I'll put some more on for serving. So again, don't go too crazy with teriyaki sauce, but that can also be like a nice little glaze for the tofu. It smells so good. Yeah, when I grew up, we put teriyaki sauce on everything. Like I said, my Japanese mother, that was her go-to kind of a flavoring for everything she made, so I have to have it around. All right, so if you could do this a little bit longer and get it as grilled as you want it to, but to me this is about right. I'm going to take it, and you can see that just in that short period of time, the teriyaki sauce has started to break down a little bit, and it's already in there in the tofu. And it would quickly burn if we left it on there, so we're not going to do that. We just want it on there long enough. See, that one started getting really brown. It must have been in a hot part of the grill, because these coals are really hot right now. Okay, so that's that for the grill. And the last thing I'm going to do with the tofu skewers is I'll take my sauce while they're still hot, and I'll just kind of put a little bit of this sauce on the top and let it soak in. Okay, so that was it. Tofu grilling is done. Okay, we got the grilled tofu all ready to go. It's nice and hot. Got all the nice sauce and the grill marks. I found a nice bowl for my rice. I'm going to get it off the heat. Want it nice and piping hot, because hot food is best to me. I kind of like it tongue-burning hot. Some people think it's too hot, but that's the way I like it. Okay, so I've got all my rice, and so I have some different garnishes. I can put some roasted sesame seeds on it. I love scallions, so I'm going to put scallions on top of the rice. They're chopped up really fine. I love this Furikake, which is a seaweed sprinkle, and this one does not have MSG, so it's a good one. They sell this at Trader Joe's now. Just a little goes a long way, though. You don't want to overdo it, because it can be it has a little sweetness to it. And then this is Shichimi Togarashi, which is 7 pepper or 7 spice blend, kind of a red pepper mix. And it has some really beautiful things in it. It's not just pepper powder. So the 7 things that it has in it, I could read them all out to you, but it even has orange peel, a little seaweed, sesame seed, ginger, And so it has all these beautiful flavors. But if you don't have that, you can always use red pepper flakes. And so then we're going to put our tofu skewers. We'll put 2 on here because what if we're really hungry? So we can put 2 tofu skewers on top of that. And then we can even put some of our toppings on top of that. Gotta layer the flavors, right? And then I like to put this pepper thing, but I like things spicy. So if you don't like things spicy, then maybe you won't want to put as many pepper things on yours, but I like it. Okay, so there we have it, the Master Fried Rice. It has all these vegetables in season. It even has edamame, which is protein. And then we top it off with our beautiful outdoor charcoal grilled tofu skewers. And we can add, I should have done this, for those teriyaki sauce lovers, which would be my husband, he would just put the whole bottle on the table and drink it. So we can add a little bit of our teriyaki sauce, but you don't have to. So we have our delicious Master Fried Rice with tofu skewers. And if you didn't want to do the grilled tofu on the skewers, you can just cook it in the oven, chop it up, and put it in your fried rice. It would taste just as good. I hope you enjoyed this dish and watch some of my other YouTube videos on whole food, plant-based, no oil cooking. Thank you so much.